If you ain't a Gator, you must be Gator bait. If you ain't a Gator, you must be Gator bait.
Welcome back and welcome in to another episode of If You Ain't a Gator podcast. As always, I got my man Kyle with me over here. And then we got a special guest on today, Dylan Olive, Cam Parker's boss. Love to have him on. Dylan, we appreciate you coming on, bro. How's your day going?
15 minutes early. 15 minutes
Yeah,
early.
yeah, super early. I appreciate you guys having me. It's great to be here, and another beautiful day in Gainesville.
Beautiful day. Kyle, how's your week going so far?
Yep, doing well. I got my son's 4th birthday party tomorrow, so Costco runs, going to Walmart, Publix. I've been all over North Tampa this afternoon.
4th birthday, 3rd birthday, it's always an extravaganza. Once they get older, it just starts to settle down. And you're like, what do you want to do? Like, go bowling? What do you want to do here? But we got a lot to talk about today. We got some spring practice to talk about. We have some unfortunate basketball to talk about, some recruiting, different things to just catch up on here. Dylan is on to discuss the spring practice. He is the boots on ground and the guy that knows it all that's going on out there. So we'll just kick it off here just with some different questions. I know that Kyle has some for you. I got some for you. Kyle, if you want to ask him the first one.
Right, Dylan, let's jump right into it. Biggest question I think everybody in Gator Nation wants to know, quarterback situation. Right, we got Trammell,
on the spot. Yeah.
Philo. What are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the first thing is just both of them look really good. I think a lot of times we get into the Trammell versus Aaron Philo, and everyone wants, to say, oh, it's Trammell, it's Philo. And if you don't want one guy, you're kind of the enemy of that side, right? But I mean, both of them look really good. I think, in my opinion, and obviously we're seeing so little. We're not seeing them in 7-on-7, 11-on-11, and stuff like that. But just, everyone's mentioned it. Trammell's ball looks better. Trammell just, he mentioned it in a press conference. I think he said he has like a top percentile spin rate in the NFL, not even like college, like NFL. So like it's clear that his ball is one of the better ones, in the building. But I think both of them look good. I think if I had to pick right now, I would say that I don't have enough information to pick right now. I take a cop out, but I really like what I'm seeing from both of them. I think this is gonna go into fall camp for sure. I think we'll find out. Honestly, with how John Summerall works and how he's done it in the past, we might not even find out till like a week before kickoff. But I think right now I'm liking what I'm seeing from both guys. Obviously, Trammell is kind of the favorite right now for everyone, just because from what we're seeing, he's the most fun, he's the most exciting. We talked to J. Michael Sturdivant yesterday at the Combine. He had a lot of great things to say about Trammell. Basically, if you ask him, he's probably picking Trammell to win the job just off of his comments. So I think there's a lot of excitement around the room. Don't sleep on Will Griffin either. Obviously, I'm not gonna come on here and say he's gonna win the job, but the kid can sling that football, man. I wrote a story about him, 6'2", 215 pounds as an 8th grader. I mean, that's insane. I was like 5'5" as an 8th grader, probably. Like, he would destroy me on a football field, but he's looking good too. So it's a lot to be excited about.
I think physically, like, Will's got he's probably the best looking guy coming off the the bus. Like, he's got muscles popping out all over his legs when he's wearing those little shorts in practice. Like, and he's got a great arm too. And even like you said, Summerall said something about that. But I almost thought you had us there for a second. I thought you were going to throw out the unsolicited QB pick. Right now, you're like, if I had to guess, boom. I was
maybe
like,
next
okay,
time. Maybe next time on the show, I'll get you.
We'll get you to slip up next time. So I feel like every time the question is asked about like, oh, Philo, Trammell, and not to put you on the spot with it, but it's easy to talk about, oh, this is what they do really good. What do you see just from each one? You can only pick, just pick one thing for each. What are they doing that's a negative, I guess you'd say?
Oof, yeah. I mean, like I said, we don't see too much, so don't take this with a grain of salt in a way. But I think just for Philo, there's been a couple of underthrows here and there. His ball is, there's days where it's not looking as sharp as you would like it to be. And then Trammell, obviously we're just seeing him throw on air, so there's not a lot of like I can't say like, oh, they're reading the defense wrong or stuff like that. But I think, Trammell at times the ball comes out really well, but it might be behind. The placement's not as crisp as Philo, and that's understandable since Philo's been doing it for a longer time. That's kind of how Philo wins as a quarterback is, his placement's got to be crisp. So I would say that's the two things where it's like, sometimes if you've seen the deep ball clips, a lot of the times Will Griffin's the guy who's throwing the best deep ball out there. Trammell has a really good deep ball, but Philo, I think when we're talking about who's going to throw the best deep ball to VB3, to Dallas Wilson, to Eric Singleton, you're probably going to have Trammell, winning in that regard, but there's a lot more that goes into being a quarterback. So we'll see on that.
One last thing too, on the release side, you've been watching them throw even on air, but you can see the release. We've seen a lot of clips out in the social media world of maybe some ex-Gator quarterbacks, maybe an ex-USF quarterback with an awkward release. Do both of them, they seem to have a pretty, quick, snappy release. I mean, it looks pretty similar to me, at least on some of the drills that I've seen from the stuff you guys are putting out.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of the guys in that room have a pretty nice release. I think, it's kind of, I wouldn't even say I can't pick who has a better release. I think they both have a pretty similar, solid release. So, yeah, I mean, we saw the clip of Byron Brown. And listen, Byron Brown, he did it to us in the swamp, so you can't say too much, but that was an interesting looking form there. So I think they both look like, what you want your quarterback to look like. They both can throw the ball really well. I said it. Oh, Aaron Philo has had some bad throws. So has Trammell. At the end of the day, I mean, they both look really good. I think if you ask anyone, the ball's not hitting the ground that much. The throws are on time where they need to be, and it's early. A lot of last year
practice number 7, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really early. Last year we were watching Harrison Bailey and Aiden Warner, and it was not nearly as crisp. So it's really promising just that we're even here talking about like, oh, what does this guy do better than this guy, and trying to find those bad things about them because they're both really good quarterbacks, and that's a good problem to have.
That's what I was just about to say. Having it where it's kind of back and forth. I could see if you're like, well, I don't know, it's a coin toss, but they both are like not that great. And I know that a lot of people put a lot of stress on the deep ball, and I understand it because I think that it's just built. If you just pay attention to just the history of the University of Florida, and what I'm about to say, I know people are going to be like, I can't believe you say that, but they're used to the fun and gun. That's the way you see it. You see them throwing it deep to Ike Hilliard and things of that nature. But you can be a great quarterback and you don't have a complete deep ball. And I'm not going to say that either of these quarterbacks are like this guy. But if you go watch Florida versus LSU in the swamp, Tim Tebow drops back and throws a pass to Percy Harvin down the sideline, and Percy has to come back to it and grab it, and he ends up scoring a touchdown. And you know why he did that? Because he's an elite receiver. So I don't just need our quarterbacks to just be able to put it deep. No, I need our receivers to be smart enough to know to come back to that ball if they need to. But at the same time, I trust in our coaches to scheme it up to where it's not going to be a huge necessity. It's like, oh, like we got to go deep. Like people I feel like think we're throwing it deep 46 times a game. Like it's fine. It's going to be okay.
Well, and the key with the deep ball too is if you can hit it before they're open, right? If you can read it and you know it's going to be open based on the coverage pre-snap and you've got it locked in, if you throw it before they're already past the cornerback, you can throw it a little bit underneath them. And guess what? The safety doesn't have time to react. Whereas the safety sees that guy's blown coverage and you're late on that throw, it better be on the money.
Yeah. That's not something I'm too worried about. Next question for you, and I think this is something that quite a few of us were worried about and maybe still have a little worry, is the O-line. It looks like there's a lot of depth there. How is the O-line looking to you just from the bits you're getting to see?
Yeah, I think, John Summerall talked a lot about the depth being great. I think there's a lot of guys in there where you're like, I'm excited to see this guy. I think he could be, that guy, but at the same time, we don't have many, if at all, that guy right now. So, I think it's a work in progress. I think what I've really taken away from watching them is just it's really exciting to see, Phil Trautwein go to work. I think his drills are just, thinking from last year to this year, there's a lot of new drills that just make sense. I'm not gonna come on here and be like, I'm an O-line guru, right? Like I'm 145 pounds soaking wet. Like I'm not gonna go out there and play O-line for you, but I think watching the drills, they look good. That you see when you watch football, you see what they're working on. It's pretty clear. So yeah, I think the O line, it's definitely something that we're probably going to be worried about for a while because you're just not going to see a lot from them. When the media gets out there until even fall, you're not going to really see a lot from them until you get into that real action. But I think there's a lot of guys that have a lot of potential. I think there's a lot of newcomers that, we don't really know too much about that we'll get to know more on. I know a guy I'm really excited to see, really unique player, Egan Boyer, from Penn State. I think he's like the skinniest offensive lineman out there, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. Stanford guys, shocking some people. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name, but Emeka, he's shocking some people. So I think it's a group that, like, we've heard about it. A lot of depth. We need to see some people step up, but I'm excited about it. I mean, another guy, just I know I'm ripping guys off here, but Jason Zandamela. We talked to why am I forgetting his name? Jake Slaughter. Sorry, you cannot forget the GOAT, Jake Slaughter. But Jake Slaughter,
Rick.
we talked to him yesterday. He said a lot of good things about Jason Zandamela. He's been saying a lot of good things about Jason Zandamela for a while. So another guy I'm excited about. I think there's a lot of guys that I'm really excited about, but we're not going to see that till week 1 in the swamp. And so I'm keeping my overreactions till that day. I'm sure if they look bad week 1, you'll get an article from me like, we're in trouble, guys. But till then, I think it's just, you got to trust Phil Trautwein, one of the best coaches in college football at the position. So I think, a lot of potential there for sure.
Yeah, and I stand by it. I think that a lot of us as Gator fans, I think we look at it just as at these players as a whole, and it's you try not to, but I think all of us do is we compare and we think back to last year and the year prior, and it's like it's real easy to get nervous about that. And it's like, well, you haven't had a coaching staff like this around, and so there's people that go and take players like, for example, you have somebody the likes of Dan Mullen who made Kyle Trask, who coming out of high school wasn't really anything, and he goes and turns him into should have won the Heisman.
Kyler
And
Murray's backup.
yeah,
in high school.
I'm like, it's insane. Like, it's insane how great coaching can change a lot. Like, yeah, you may not have heard of this player or not of this player, but it's like, I feel like with the O-line, I don't want just one good person. Colorado had that. I don't want just one good person. Give me 5 good people that work great together rather than one great player and then 4 like others that are like, oh yeah, they're okay. No, give me 5 good players that work together and gel and go as a team. Like, that's what I want. And so that's why I trust Coach Trautwein. Like, I think that I think you're going to see real quick why he is who he is.
I think that brings up a good point too that we wanted to talk about, maybe bigger picture. What have you seen from last year, this year, from the coaching staff as far as, we've heard that the pacing and the tempo is much quicker at practice, but obviously outside of Chapman, who, is just a psychopath all the time, and he's been that way for years, who's surprised you as far as new coaches and their energy and maybe, how they're coaching up these guys and preaching the fundamentals and technique? Is there anybody that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it's so hard because there's so many guys that are just bringing a different type of energy than we saw last year. The number one, and this was really like my welcome to the 2026 Florida Gators this spring, was Buster Faulkner. Was just the first day going at it about, I can't even remember what it was now, but something went wrong and he was going off really, and it was really nice to see. I think a lot of the guys on the beat talk about this. Gerald Chapman was always bringing that energy. I mean, he's been that way since he got here, and it would be super fun watching his drills. And then the rest of practice, when you go around, it was really quiet compared to there. It was like, you go out to this crazy war zone, and then you go to the library at the next drill. So I think now it's not like that at all. I mean, there's guys that are are, really loud, really energetic. I think Evan McKissick's a guy, really energetic guy. I mean, I didn't know too much about him coming in, but he's just got a great personality. When we got to talk to him, it was awesome. He's out there, bringing that energy, bringing that they all got that Georgia in them a little bit, where like, Buster, Evan McKissick, they got that little Georgia passion. So I love it. I think, we got a lot of coaches bringing it more than ever. I think that's even made Gerald Chapman, a little crazier. I know it's crazy to say, but he's out there bringing it to a new level. I mean, every time I go around that drill, I'm scared that he's gonna start yelling at me on the sidelines about something. The other day, he threw one of the pieces of equipment like halfway across the field. I was like, all right, put him into the quarterback competition. I think I've seen enough, but it's exciting, man. I mean, we talked a little bit about it with all the new guys or the old guys, sorry, that were at the combine yesterday, and they all said the same thing. Like, that energy is crazy. It's new. It's exciting. And, there was a lot of guys that were saying that's what's needed here. And, I don't know if that's a shot at the last staff, but it's definitely something that is really good to see. And it makes practice a lot more fun. I mean, we're out there for 40 minutes, but I love every second of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that even talking about like the shot at the former staff, I think it does have to be like, I would love to ask some of the players that played on last year's team that's on this one, like, how do you feel about that? Like, how does that feel to you? Like Dallas Wilson, VB3. Like, I'm guessing they're probably not yelling at VB too much because I feel like he's pretty high up there IQ wise and does a lot right. But just guys like that, like Cormani and stuff, like, how does it feel to get now you're getting yelled at? Is Brad White like that? Is he very vocal, or is it more Summerall on the defensive side that's vocal?
Now, admittingly, I haven't been around Brad White as much as I have the offensive side of the ball because,
Gotcha.
we get 40 minutes out there, and I'm always the sucker that's like, oh, these wide receivers are so fun. I'm gonna spend all my time around.
Well, I mean, that's where
No
I'd be too.
complaint for me.
He's got a great personality. I think he's very passionate. It's a different passion than Summerall and Chapman where you're hearing them a lot, but he's definitely very passionate. And I think he brings the fire a little bit too. On that defense side of the ball, you need to bring the fire, so he's
Yeah.
definitely bringing it.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's why I'm not. I mean, it was just curious, like out of curiosity, but I'm sure that he can be kind of like your chill side to it. Because I know when Summerall's over there with the defense, I know he's just, oh my god, you see it on some of the clips. I'm like, good gracious, I feel like I'm in trouble, and I'm watching through my phone. Yeah, that I love hearing it. I love hearing about the passion and just hearing that people. It sounds crazy. Like when I say it out loud, it sounds crazy. I'm like, I love hearing that they're out there cussing. And I'm like, I say that, and I'm like, that really does sound a little weird coming out of my mouth. But at the same time, if you've been around football, played football, you understand what that does and the energy it brings. And them being like that in practice is going to translate to the games. And then you're going to be, okay, if we're out here getting yelled at and we're getting toughened up and these different things are happening, we're going to be tougher than you are. And there's going to be a select few teams that you might be as tough as us, but your head coach being that way, it all bleeds out on everybody, your coaching staff, your players. And I think that's my biggest complaint and why it's easy to bring up the last staff is that head honcho is super vanilla and it kind of floods down to everybody else.
Percent milk.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, you got the next one.
Well, you brought it up, wide receiver room. In my mind, it's a top 2 or 3 in the country. I mean, talk about just an embarrassment of riches there with, I mean, every guy and everybody's got a little bit of a different flavor to them, right? And a different skill set. Like, obviously Eric Singleton, they've been raving about his speed, track speed, all of that. It seems like Stockton is probably the most like polished route runner that we have, which is going to be huge for us on third down to not run a 4-yard hitch on a 3rd and 5. But what have you seen from the wide receiver room? Like, who's caught your eye?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. One of the best rooms in the nation. Everyone's really caught my eye, but if I had to name a few, I think the big two that kind of have been the surprise of camp: Micah Mays, Bailey Stockton. I think both of them. I mean, Bailey Stockton specifically, I kind of knew he was coming over. That was a Buster Faulkner guy since Buster Faulkner was at GT. That's an Aaron Philo guy.
Yeah.
I watched his film and you know, there was great stuff, but I wasn't like, oh, this guy's super athletic. Like this guy's gonna look good when we're running routes on air. But he looks good, man. I mean, I mentioned it with my boy Rolling with Carlos. I said I don't want to put the exact comparison, but Eugene Wilson, you know, he looked really explosive when he ran routes. Bailey Stockton, I'm not putting him there yet, but he looks really good. He's one of those smaller guys that just runs a really crisp route. And then Micah Mays, another guy where I watched the film and I was like, yeah, like deep play guy, right? You know, he brings value to the team, but I didn't think he was gonna look this good. I mean, this guy jumps out the gym. I forgot who said that, but someone said he jumps out the gym and it's very visible when he's out there. Has made a lot of great catches. You know, like I said, they're running routes on air right now, so it's not like you're gonna see too many spectacular catches. Still, there's been like 5 catches where I'm like, damn, like that's a good catch, and
Yeah.
I think he's really been exciting. Other than that, Eric Singleton, he's hard to not mention. I mean, super fast, super explosive, gonna be one of the best wide receivers in this room, maybe even in the country. You know, he has been under Buster Faulkner before. Really excited to see him. I think a lot of people kind of underrate him just because 2 years ago he was the best wide receiver in the transfer portal, and then he went to Auburn, and I don't think anyone really had a great year at Auburn. So
Hugh Freeze, yeah.
right, like we'll move on from that year, and I think he'll be right back to where he was. So that wide receiver room, I mean, we talked about it when we talked about the quarterbacks. They're gonna make the quarterback's life so much easier. I
Yeah.
think whoever wins the job is gonna have a really fun time, a really easy time. Buster Faulkner already makes it kind of easy on you. You know, his scheme's gonna scheme guys open, and then when you have VB3, Dallas, all these guys, I'm not gonna go through the long list. We'll be here forever, but I think there's a lot of talent in that wide receiver room.
Dylan, you're a mind reader, dude. My one player I wanted to shout out and get your opinion on was Micah Mays, because that was a guy that I think a lot of Florida fans kind of scratched their head when he came over.
Yeah.
But the staff and the film so far, he's looked absolutely electric. That might be the steal of the portal.
100%.
Yeah, I think just looking at this room, it's kind of insane. And I feel like the Bailey Stockton one, for me, whenever I know there was a lot of like hate on it, I guess, and like, what are we doing here bringing him? But anyone who's ever played quarterback, you have your guy. Like you have somebody that they may not even be top guy in the country, whatever it may be. But if you know him, like where I can close my eyes and I can throw that route to him, I can throw that. I know where he's going to be. I know exactly his pace, everything. I want that in the room if Philo is the guy. If it is going to be Philo, and now it's looking like, I mean, anybody can throw it to him. His cuts are so sharp. I'm like, bro, chill. Like you are tearing up the field out there, and someone's going to roll an ankle. I need you to calm down. But I'm not mad at it. I think it's kind of insane. I'm like, how do you spread this ball around? Like, I'm like, I hope that no one's selfish. I hope this whole room like gets along with each other and they want to celebrate each other. Cause I'm like, y'all are going to score and you are going to score a lot, like a whole lot. And then just kind of like going back with the quarterback thing, touching on that for a second, having Jaden Ball behind you, Evan Pryor behind you. Like, I mean, I feel like I could go out there and quarterback right now at UF, and I'm old. Like, I feel like I could go do it. But yeah, like Kyle said, it's an embarrassment of riches. It is insane.
Don't sleep on Byron Lewis. I've heard Byron Lewis has been looking really good in practice as well.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the offense is stacked now, and we have a competent coach in there who is going to put them where they need to be, and not we're going to watch the film and figure it out, 4 years later. But touching on people who will be catching the ball, the tight end room, how is that looking to you, Amir Jackson? You ready for the Kyle Pitts comparison? Are you willing to throw that out there right now?
Oh man, I think to me, honestly, the tight end room has been one of the ones where I got a little more questions about. I'm not saying that that's not a deep room. I think they brought in some really good options: Lakota Dupree, Luke Harpring. I'm forgetting the other one here, but there was another big guy, and then obviously Amir Jackson. I think as much as I want to give the Kyle Pitts, we'll hold off on that for now. But I'm excited. I think Amir Jackson, this is probably the year where we're all kind of like, all right, it's your time to go. I think, like you said, it's hard to be like, oh, one of these guys is gonna have a huge year when we have 7 wide receivers that I'm like, oh, these guys can all have huge years, and we got Jaden Baugh in the backfield, Evan Pryor. So I think that the tight end room, I'm not gonna come out here and be like, yeah, we're gonna have the best tight end room in the nation, but I think they got guys there. I always love talking about Hezi Kent because I don't know how much he's gonna do this year, but bro, watching a 300-pound tight end is the best experience I've ever had. Like it's awesome. I really hope we see him like in the red zone, and because I keep saying like, man, if I'm a cornerback, a college football cornerback, and I'm chilling and I see a 300-pound dude on the O line, I'm like, all right, like forget about him. You know what I mean? And then he comes out running fast as hell. I think that could work in our favor a little bit. But that the tight end room, I think we haven't seen anyone really come out yet and be like that guy.
Yeah.
I think the expectation is for Amir Jackson to be the main guy, and then you got Lakota Debris, you got Luke Harpering, you got Evan Chieka. I remembered his name now, Evan Chieka down there too. But I think it's exciting. Again, it's kind of like the O line where you got a lot of guys, you got a lot of depth. We need to see some people step up, but I think there's a little bit of experience there too. And yeah, another exciting room. I think there's not a position group on this offense where I'm like, oh, like we don't match up well with someone else because of this. I think we have so much talent, and like you said, I last year I was hyping this team up a lot. I think a lot of the media was because we got to see the talent on the field, right? And it was like, this talent is good enough to win a lot of games. Then we got bitten the butt a little bit because of the coaching staff, but this year, you got enough to be bullish because the coaching staff has proven that they can use talent really well. So there's a lot to be excited about this year. I'm not gonna make the same mistake as last year and hype it up too much before we see it on the field. But I think this year, we got a lot to be excited about for sure.
I will not be mad if we don't run any 12 personnel all year. We just
I agree.
one tight end and then just let those wide receivers eat.
Yeah.
Question, kind of jump back real quick to the wide receiver room. Dallas Wilson, we see he's out of the boot. I've heard he's out of the boot. How much has he, if anything, has he been doing at practice?
Yeah, we haven't seen him at all. So the media, he's out of the boot. I mean, we see him at the start of practice. We'll go over, he'll be out of the boot, but we have not seen him running routes or anything like that. That's not saying that he's not doing that. I don't know what happens when we leave. They might be like, Dallas, like you're good now. Like come out here and run some routes. But I think the overwhelming, concept there is that we know what Dallas Wilson can do. We don't need to see him running on air because we already know how good he is. I think there's a little risk there. We saw it with DJ Lagway. It reminds me a little bit of like, oh, we know what DJ Lagway can do, and then it obviously didn't turn out too good. But wide receiver is definitely a different position than quarterback. I think Dallas Wilson will be back on the field very soon as well. I don't think this is going to be a lingering thing. If not this spring, he'll definitely be back out there for fall if there's no setbacks, in my opinion. But yeah, we haven't seen too much of him. But like I said, I mean, we know what Dallas Wilson can be. I think, again, I don't want to put any expectations out there because there's so many good players to feed. But I think if Dallas Wilson was the focal point of this offense, he could be one of the best wide receivers in the country. I think he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the country.
It's crazy to think that, like, I know that we all want Dallas out there. We all want him out there. We know what he can do. But at the same time, it's like none of us have fully stressed about him being in a boot because of how much is in that room. Real quick before we jump to the next question, Matthew Walker said that he has a question. Which running back, let me pop it up here. Which running back outside of Ball has looked good so far, in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's a tough one too because we haven't seen, running back. It's kind of like they go through drills, but it's not too much. I think obviously Evan Pryor is a fantastic running back. I think when he was brought in, I mean that's the perfect combination for Jaden Baugh. It's kind of like we saw it with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of that dynamic a little bit. But I think both of them are going to be really good. I think Evan Pryor is, especially for a Buster Faulkner offense, I mean, with that speed, it's going to be phenomenal.
And pass catching ability.
Yeah, exactly. I think both him and Jaden Ball have great pass catching ability. that is one of the big things that we do see is them working on
Mhm.
catching passes. That's been a big focal point with Jaden Ball, especially. Usually, when we're doing indie or we got some extra drills, Jaden Ball is over there with Buster Faulkner catching passes, catching the Wildcat, which I would love to see some Jaden Ball Wildcat. But yeah, that running back room, I think if you're looking at who's gonna be the guys, I think it's Jaden Ball, it's Evan Pryor, London Montgomery. Don't sleep on him.
Mhm.
A guy that I know you look at Eastern Carolina and you're like, whatever, but he had a great year at Eastern Carolina. Was a Penn State, a big time Penn State commit. Then hurt himself. Didn't really play too much there, but he's a good one. And then obviously, we got the young guys. You mentioned Byron Lewis. I'm really excited for him. And then Duke Clark. Don't sleep on Duke Clark. Duke Clark last year looked pretty good. I've
Yeah.
heard a couple, whispers that Duke Clark is looking pretty good this year. So again, like, I don't want to be a homer out here. I know that I'm coming off as like I'm hyping everyone up, but that running back room I think is on paper and how they've looked so far really good. We'll have to see it in week 1, but I'm excited for that group as well.
Yeah, man, it's so hard. The biggest thing I said when Coach Summerall got hired, and even after watching his opening press conference, I was like, you're not going to go on the podcast and lie. You're not going to go on the podcast and lie. And then just the more he did, I'm like, you're definitely going to go on the podcast and lie. And I'm like, but it may not even be lies, honestly. It's just hard to critique this team because I'm like, they're so good, at least on the offensive side. Just again, it's an embarrassment of riches. If the quarterbacks, I feel like you can close your eyes and throw to that receiving room. You're going to be all right. As for practice, it seems like the pacing of practice is much faster than say last year's. What's your comparison between the two? Like last year's to this year, is this more of like practice how you play, whereas last year it might not have been?
Yeah, I think, it's a little hard to compare them just because last year we were seeing 15 minutes. And when we say 15 minutes, it was more like 10 minutes. It was like,
Yeah.
like, oh, your 15 minutes is almost up, so get out of here. You know what I mean? But now we're seeing 40 minutes. So we're seeing a lot more. But yeah, I think for the time that we're there, it's definitely a lot more energetic. There's a lot more, like, we talked about the energy a lot louder in there, a lot more pushy. If a guy is jogging and not running to the next drill, you're gonna hear about it. But yeah, I think guys are moving around. Obviously, there's some days where like the first day it was like, oh, we're out here, like we're excited. They were moving around a little bit better than the 7th day where it's like, or especially the day they got back from spring break where it's like I was just on a beach somewhere for a week. So I think the energy at the practice is awesome. Being out there for 40 minutes is so much better for all the media because we get to see so much more. We get to, actually understand this team more. I think last year we were talking a lot about, what we assumed instead of what we're seeing. This year we're seeing a lot more. But yeah, the practices they're truly awesome. Not just my words either. I mean, like I mentioned, we talked to some of the guys back here for Pro Day. They all had great things to say. Not to self-promote, but I did drop an article if y'all want to go check it out with all their quotes from it. I compiled them all, but they were really excited. They mentioned that Caleb Banks said they were playing like their hair was on fire a little bit. So it's a 180. I think anyone will tell you that, and it's really it's what you want to see at a football practice.
I love to hear it. I think that's the thing. It's like I feel like you could tell from the team being injured, and I know a lot of people want to throw it all on strength and conditioning, and it's really easy to do that. And was that a part of it? Yeah, it definitely was. But what also plays into that is if you're not practicing hard, it's easy. Like with DJ, when you bubble wrap somebody, and I guess that's my little tiny bit of concern with like Dallas Wilson. We know what he can do. We knew what DJ could do. But when you don't have those multiple reps in, number one, you make it where it's a little bit easier for yourself to get injured. But outside of that, I love knowing that even when fall comes around, that Dallas Wilson's going to be practicing just as hard because I want these guys to practice how they play. I don't want any cupcake stuff. I don't want them trying to, well, we got to avoid injury because we need this guy. No, like now you have an embarrassment of riches all over the place. So if you do lose one, does it suck? Yeah, we don't want to lose anyone, but next man up. And it's going to be a good next man up. So I love hearing it.
And I think that's too why, quarterback, the injuries we had last year with Lagway was, that kind of stops the whole team progression, right? Because it starts and ends with the quarterback position. If Dallas Wilson, God forbid he's hurt and he has a couple weeks to get going, that's why Eric Singleton's there. That's why VB3's there, right? That's why Stockton's there. You can lose a receiver and still be okay. You lose your starting quarterback, your season's kind of maybe in the dumps unless you got a Kyle Trask situation on your hands. So it doesn't worry me too much. And Dallas is a physical freak. Like right now in his game, I feel like he can get away with being a little bit sloppy in his technique or maybe not as conditioned because you just need him for one or two plays where he's just gonna just out physical any corner that's matched up on him. So I don't worry too much about Dallas. I just want him to be healthy. And I think that Summerall had the right idea. He's like, we want to be, we want to be aggressive, but we also don't want to be just dumb. We want to be smart with how we're managing that injury. So I just hope he's ready to go for fall.
Isn't it nice having a CEO as a head coach and not someone that's just worried about the quarterbacks and what they're doing? No, but yeah, I think that's a big thing too, is that also within all of this is you have it where, like Summerall said, it's not a dumb way of going about it. It's a smart way of going about it. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to, it's going to be thumping out here. We're going to hit each other. We're going to pin to the ground. Different things like that's going to happen. But again, with Dallas Wilson, I'm not as worried. We saw him come out that Texas game, and I was like, he's taking us to the promised land. Forget DJ. We don't need him. Dallas Wilson's taking us all the way. But yeah, it's just nice to know that when they're practicing, if something does happen injury-wise, hopefully not. But if it does, it's not because of being stupid. It's just like because they're ready in the game. They're going to be ready. They're going to get put through the gauntlet. No pun intended. I know they did. But they're going to get, run through the dirt and be ready for the game because that's what Summerall said. We're going to have these guys be tough. But yeah, I love to hear it. That's my favorite thing, man. I just watching these clips and just seeing like even Summerall out there running and sprinting with these guys at practice. I'm like, this dude is just. I'm like, I don't know what he wakes up like, whatever kind of coffee he drinks or whatever it is. I was like, I need it because I don't have that type of energy. And he is just that motor is always going. I don't feel like he sleeps and I don't feel like he rests. He's just full go, full football guy. Crazy.
Yeah.
On the defensive side, Dylan, it seems like, I've seen some clips of like maybe the D-line guys not running, doing full effort or not doing the right technique. And you see Brad White come over and he's going one-on-one with LJ McCray going, hey, do it right. You're not doing it right. Do it again. And you got Chapman screaming at him. Talk about the defensive side. Like, what have you been seeing? And maybe what's an area where you think we're good at? Maybe an area where, there's still some question marks.
Yeah. I think there's definitely been a little bit of a tighter leash on them. You see them, especially in Chapman's group, going back and doing it again, doing it 5 times, doing it 6 times. He loves to yell at them and get on them like that. But just on the defense side of the ball, I think, there's a lot to like. Obviously, I think when everyone talks about what's one of the most glaring, concerns, it's the D line. I think listening to Chapman talk about it a little bit, I've become less concerned. A lot of people like to just look at a name and be like, okay, this guy's not going to be good. DK Kalu, not going to be good. Some of the additions we brought in, not going to be good just because they haven't shown it yet. And I like to bring up that Cam Jackson, when he got here, no one was like, oh, we got Cam Jackson. Like, it was like, who is this guy? Caleb Banks came over from Louisville. Who is this guy? You know what I mean? So I really like to trust. Yeah, exactly. A lot of names where, Chapman especially has done really well in just turning guys around. I know he mentioned the other day on High Top, DK Kalu is a guy to watch out for. Haven't seen too much from him just because, like I said, I'm always got my eyes on the wide receivers. Well, I might even be over there and watching the wide receivers a little bit, but I think that room is a little concerning, probably the most concerning room. I think Linebackers, I mean, one of the groups I'm probably the least concerned about. I think Miles
Yeah.
Graham, obviously one of the best linebackers in the country. Aaron Childs, I'm excited about this year. I think last year, before last year, he was really a guy that we thought was going to take off. Last year wasn't his best year, but you got to remember he's a young guy. I think this year he could kind of break out in a way. I'm really excited to see Ty Jackson and Miles Johnson,
Miles
two guys
Johnson,
that
yeah.
are they were big time recruits. Haven't heard too much about them just because still young guys in a deep linebacker room, but I think that room's going to be good. Cornerback room. We talked to Devin Moore about it. He said he thinks it's the best in the country. I don't know if I'm going that far into it yet, but Cormani McClain I think has one of the higher ceilings out of any
Yeah.
SEC cornerbacks. We've seen flashes. I think this is the year he puts it together. Dijon Johnson's a leader. I think he's been a really good cornerback for a while. And then again, the young guys, Javari Flowers, we saw, I mean, he's not even a young guy because last year he played so much and he was really
Well,
impressive.
he was 17, right?
Yeah. He wasn't even, he was supposed to be in high
Dang.
school and he was balling out in the SEC. So that's one of the guys I'm pretty bullish on. I think he's going to be, a stud for a long time. And then Ben Hanks, I think this might be the year. The staff has kind of hit on it that you might be a young guy, and in the old days, Ben Hanks, he's a redshirt freshman. You're not saying like this is the year for him to play, but the staff has hit on it. When you come to the University of Florida, even as a freshman, like you're here to play. You're not here to sit on the bench anymore. I mean, especially with the transfer portal and NIL. So I think this is the year for Ben Hanks as well. I think we see a lot more of him. And, I think going to the safeties, Lagonza Hayward, I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to be really good. I think we made some great additions. Cam Dooley's some guy that he's stood out so far. They talk really well about him. Obviously the Baylor guy, DJ Coleman, another guy. So I'm not too concerned at all about the defense. I think, it's a whole new system. We're going to have to see it on the field. I think Brad White has SEC proven, experience. So again, another thing where it's like, you're pretty comfortable with this staff and you're pretty comfortable with the players on it. But, obviously we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. But I think the defense is really talented. Not too many holes. If anything, the D line is, to go back to your question, the D line is probably my biggest concern. But at the same time, it's like I always say, and it's like we said with the offensive line. I mean, if you have a guy like Gerald Chapman running that unit, you're not gonna really say like, oh, I don't think we're gonna be, good. I don't trust that unit at all. So, I would be remiss if I did not mention Brendan Bett. I almost didn't mention him.
Yeah.
I think Brendan Bett's in for a huge year. I think Brendan Bett, like I mentioned it, a Caleb Banks, a Cam Jackson, two
Yes.
guys that, they kind of gradually blew up in a way. And then we left like, oh, they were always superstars, but they weren't. I think Brendan Bett's the same way. Brendan Bett, a lot of people got introduced to him in the wrong way in that USF game, right? But I think he had a really good year last year. And a lot of people don't realize that was his first year playing.
Mhm.
He missed the entire year due to academics at Baylor. So I think the ceiling is really high for him. I think he's kind of stepped into it this year. A lot of people are talking well about him. So he's someone I'm definitely watching out for to be kind of the underrated star on this defense.
Yeah, I think Bett's going to be on a redemption tour. With the academic eligibility he had at Baylor, with the issue he had and the incident he had at USF. But like you said, Chapman's been saying he's a leader now. He's kind of setting the tone for those guys. So him and Mbachu, I'm excited to see play. And then the linebacker room, like you said, you forget about Miles Johnson and Ty Jackson because we've got 2 or 3 really good returning studs there. But take it for what it's worth. But Billy Napier said Ty Jackson had the best linebacker film he had ever seen out of a high school player, and so I've been waiting to see some flashes out of him. And then I heard from the grapevine that Cormani picked off and did a pick 6 in practice against Philo. So let's just get that to translate to some SEC games and some pick 6s there, and we'll be rolling.
I can tell you one thing about Cormani, and just even watching him in high school is there's no physical problem there at all. It's 110% a mental thing. And I feel like I feel like this could be his year. And the reason I think that is because he goes to Colorado year one. He's young. He's, he's a young buck, and that's what it is. And he's out there where there's cameras, and we've talked about it on here. There's cameras everywhere. You're wanting to get onto the YouTube channel that they have, and there's all these different things that's going on. And then you leave there and you come to Florida. And then when you come to Florida, it's like, well, you got a vanilla coach, and I feel like he's kind of able to be pushed around. And then now this year, it's like, okay, you're staying around, but I'm telling you, this is not going to be like anything you've ever faced. Because I'll guarantee you that Deion's out there yelling the way that some is. And so I feel like this is a year he could fully break out. And same thing with Ben Hanks. I've been saying it for so long, is that he's just one of them ones. And just the way he plays, the way that he can move around. I think some of his celebrations might get us some penalties. But other than that, I'm like, he's going to do it one time and probably one time only. But
if he's celebrating and getting us penalties, I'm all in. Because if he's celebrating, that probably means it's a pick six. So let him celebrate all he wants. I don't care. Personally.
That's what I want. Just bring DBU back. Bring the picks
bring
back.
the swag. Yeah.
Question I have is, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, but I'm going to try it, is on the D-line. How is Emmanuel Oyabadeo doing?
Yeah, that's you. I think you got it. It's a little tough, but I mean, that's one where he's hard to miss. I can't believe I even forgot to mention him because he's hard to forget. A really unique athlete, obviously a guy that came over from London, didn't play too much football. Really funny story. I think, I've mentioned it before. He was at a football game because he played basketball, and the coach was like, bro, you got to come play football. Like I'm not letting you leave here without playing football. It's obviously worked out really well for him. I think, he's one of the guys that, again, is a guy that I think would be a huge factor in making this defense great. I think we got a lot of guys that make us really positive that this defense will be good, but he could be someone that makes it great. Super athletic. I've never seen anything like it, really, to be honest. I mean, huge guy, and he moves like a basketball player, right? Like he can move. We saw it. He was playing pursuit angles in special teams, and I'm like, that should not be possible right now. But I think he can be a really good football player. I asked Brad White a couple weeks ago about what's the next step for him, and it's really just about getting snaps, playing snaps. I mean, he hasn't played football for that long. Obviously, Jack State, you're not playing the type of competition that you're going to be playing this year, but I think, with this whole offseason, and this whole, spring practice, fall practice, going against SEC guys, I think it's going to be really good for him. And I think, again, a guy that could really come out and just be really good. It's got to translate. Obviously, we're talking about a guy who just came over from Jack State. Like I said, not the biggest competition, but I think it could translate really well. I think, we used to talk a lot about the SEC size. This guy, I promise you, he got SEC size. I don't think that's. And so another really exciting guy. I think he's translated well too. In practice, he doesn't look like, a guy that's out of his comfort zone. He doesn't look like a guy that's not supposed to be there. And I think it's really exciting, and he has the potential to be a really good football player.
I got one more to ask about on the D line, and this guy, for me, it's kind of I like him, but it's because he's the first player I ever went live for on the podcast, and it was for his commitment. And I was like, please don't let my first one of you not pick us. But KJ Ford, he looks like a freak out there. I mean, he's just like, every picture, every shot you see, I'm like, this dude is like, he eats weights, or he's just like, he lives in the gym. Is he, jumping out to you? How's he looking?
Yeah. He, like you said, he's very noticeable size-wise. I talked about him a little when we were going into spring camp. I mentioned he's probably the most college football ready recruit we had in that class. I know Will Griffin got the ESPN college ready quarterback, but I would say KJ Ford was the most college ready. I talked to Bam Hardman recently, I think last week, about it. I asked him a lot about KJ Ford. He basically said, we expect him to have a role this year. I think, as a freshman, especially right now, early on in spring camp, you're still kind of getting your footing a little bit. And I've noticed, especially with this staff, they're not quick to hype up freshmen. Last year, I think it was pretty early on that we knew that VB3, Dallas, and
Woods.
Jaden Woods were going to be special. And obviously, they're different type of players. But
Yeah.
I think this staff has been pretty hesitant to really pump some guy up. But they've talked the most about KJ Ford as a guy that's truly going to have a role. I think he's going to play, for a freshman quite a lot this year. And like you said, I mean, that guy, he's got the SEC body. Playing at Duncanville is always going to get you ready for college football. That's one of the best high school college football or high school football programs in the country. So I think he's going to be really good. I think, you're playing behind Jaden Woods, which is super helpful. I think Jaden Woods knows a thing or two about stepping onto the field early for Florida. So I think that's super helpful. He's kind of taken him under his wing a little bit there. So exciting stuff. And yeah, I think we see KJ Ford a lot this year. I think he's one of the better freshmen, in the entire class.
Yeah, I feel like just that room in general, and I think going just on like where they don't like to hype up freshmen, I don't think that this staff, especially like Summerall, I think he takes the approach of that. I'm not going to compliment anybody, just like he did at Tulane, and he'll get hyped with you and he'll have your back. But I think that it's like there's always room for improvement in his brain, and it's like the Kurt Signetti type mindset. When he was on, I think it was a Pat McAfee show, and they said, "Oh, where's the national championship trophy?" And he's like 5 feet away from me. He's like, "But I need him to come get it because I don't want to get complacent." And I feel like that's the same approach that Summerall does, but I think you could have prime Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback, and he's gonna be like, yeah, he's okay. Like he's all right. He's okay player. But I think that looking at like a KJ Ford, just knowing he's gonna have a package there, I think what you said about Chapman, I love that you touched on it because I feel like a lot of people think that I'm just kind of spewing stuff here. But I've said when these players got, hit the transfer portal, they come to the University of Florida. A lot of people are like, no one was like, oh, we're getting so-and-so. We're getting so-and-so. We're getting, George Gums. And then now look at what they turned into. And honestly, Caleb Banks, outside of breaking his foot, he was making a run for being in the first round. Like, obviously, that's off the table now, which kind of sucks for, Chapman's resume. But the longevity of it, if he, heals up, he goes and joins the team and he becomes an all-pro in the NFL, he can notch that onto his resume. But he changes these guys around. And I think that's a massive, massive thing where that's what great coaching does. You can look at him like, well, we're not getting anybody or Chapman's. And I'm like, you think Chapman didn't have any say in who these guys were coming in? You think he didn't watch any film? He's just like, yes, sir, Summerall, I'll take him. No, he knows what they can do. He sees the twitch. He sees the movement. He sees the get off speed. He brought those guys in. Did they not go drop, millions on a D line, like a D lineman? No. But I'm like, you got to pick and choose what you want. We don't got oil money over here like Texas. But I trust in this coaching staff. I trust in Chapman. I trust overall that, and I trust Summerall. This defense is going to be brutal. I'm telling you, like an opposing offense, it's coming to play against it. Shoot, even our practice on offense, like they're not going to want to play against this defense. They're going to hit, and they're going to hit really, really hard. See ball, get ball, and that's just what you're seeing from the little bit of clips that we're getting. I love it. I mean, it's mind blowing to see a real coaching staff. And I hate to say that. I hate to sit here and harp on the last staff, but it's just real. I mean, you saw a bunch of lackadaisical type of play and a bunch of lazy players, and were they talented? Yeah, and that got us some points. I think that's a crazy thing about is how athletic the team was last year with such poor like leadership and poor guidance out there that they were just so athletic that we're competing with the likes of Ole Miss, playoff team, competing with Georgia, playoff team. And look at the coaching staff last year. Now you got a coaching staff like this, and we brought back a bunch of people. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to put anything out there. I've said it time and time again. I'm saying 16-0 until I'm proved otherwise. You got any more questions for him, Kyle, for spring practice before we move on to basketball?
Are you going to be at the scrimmage tomorrow?
Oh no, no, unfortunately, media is not allowed out
They
there.
don't let you get on that
Dang.
one. Damn.
I
All
might
right.
sneak. I might sneak over the wall with like a camera or
Yeah,
something.
get in between the fence
Yeah, there
posts.
you
And
go. I'll get it
just
for you
peek in.
guys.
Well, unfortunately, absolutely unfortunately, we have to move on to basketball. Um, I'm guessing that everybody that's watching right now knows the outcome of what the March Madness tournament brought us. And just, we unfortunately had some of the games that we had throughout the regular season. We've talked about on here that you can't have those games. We've said, let's try to get those out of the way. We end up having one. And we end up having one against Iowa. And it just looked like, and I know a lot of people are like, fouls and the refs this, and Kyle can speak on this more being there, but from watching it on TV, we just couldn't get a shot to fall in that Iowa game, like at all, for like a good stretch of the game. And we still kind of hung around, but it was just like everything Iowa shot, I'm like, that thing was going in. And then Florida is like, we'd throw up a shot and we were praying for it to go in. But I'll let you guys touch on it. Kyle, I'll let you go first. You were in attendance. What did you see? And I know I'm not going to ask how it felt.
Yeah. I knew we were in trouble pretty early on. Like you said, we couldn't get any shots to go down. It looked like they were shooting into like a 10-gallon bucket. I mean, it was they just couldn't miss. And really, I think I was a little bit nervous there with the foul trouble we got into pretty early on, especially with Chinyelu. I mean, hats off to Iowa. They beat the Scout. They played us hard. They out physicaled us. They shot better. I mean, had we gone back and won that game, I'd be pumped for a win, but they were absolutely the better team that day. We touched on it, I think, on the High Top podcast. JB had a great point. We cannot shoot our way into, back into a game. We almost did, although again, it wasn't necessarily threes. When in my opinion, when you look at a stat sheet and Xavier Lee's your top scorer, it probably doesn't mean that the game went the way we wanted it to, because we this season especially, we wanted everything to kind of run through the bigs. And when Condon or Howe led the team in scoring, we generally dominated whoever we were playing, especially in the SEC. And so it's going to be an interesting offseason for Todd. He had kind of what probably one of the best backcourts ever last year, won the Natty, and one of the best front courts ever this year. Didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And so this transition that we see here, in the offseason is going to be something to watch closely.
Yeah, I think what sucks about it most is, this team was so good that you knew like the only way we were going out was having a really, really bad game. And unfortunately, that team was pretty prone to that this year. Like it was either we looked unbeatable or we looked like extremely beatable, right? And like Kyle said early on, it was just you could tell like, oh man, we're in trouble here. Shout out Iowa again. I mean, their coach has a great story. I know a lot of us are just instantly to hate on him because he was a little chippy there in the middle and he beat us, but great story. I mean, I think he spent 16 years at his D2 school coaching him up. And they're going on a run. I think
Four
what also
natties.
yeah. I mean, awesome story. I think
Yeah.
if he was our coach, I mean, a lot of people hate Todd Golden, and we love Todd Golden.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's easy to hate him. What also sucks is the tournament is looking very winnable right now. Like we were worried about Houston. Houston's gone. I think a lot of it was just if we can just keep making it, and I even felt that way when we went up there at the end. I was like, oh man, if we can just sneak out of this one, like right, we're probably going
Yeah.
back to back, and we just couldn't do it. Really, it really sucked. I mean, we'll see what happens next year. I think the I'm not too worried about a Todd Golden led program, but it sucks to think about what could have been, knowing that this team was really, really good. I mean, I know a lot of people like to talk about how we started the year and
Yeah.
maybe we didn't deserve the 1 seed, this and that, but this team was, there was points in the year where this team was the best team in the country. I still think to the very end we were one of the best teams in the country. It just, you can't have a game like that in that situation, especially against a team like Iowa, where I know Iowa was a 9 seed, but they're showing that they're a really good basketball team, and they took advantage of it. So shout out Iowa for sure.
Who would have
Yeah.
thought Texas, Tennessee, and Arkansas would, still be in the as of yesterday, obviously, still be in the tournament, and we'd be out. Like, just it's a weird year in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think just with the way the game went, and we've talked about it like throughout the year, is just, I mean, you can go look at my ex and you can tell how I feel about, how I felt about Xavier Lee and Boogie Flant at the beginning of the year. But I think it's kind of the saying, damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like last year, they're like, well, Florida's schedule was soft. It was a cupcake schedule. It was this, it was that. And it's like, well, you got to go through a gauntlet going through March Madness. You got to play great teams there. We did play great teams, go on to win the Natty. So then I think that Todd Golden, being how he is, I think he's egotistical. I think every head coach is. Being competitive, I think he's like, okay, like we're going to go play the Dukes and we're going to go to Duke, and just playing teams like that where you put yourself in a tough spot because you kill momentum, you kill kind of like a boost to start it, and then all of a sudden they catch like wildfire and take off, and then beating the brakes off of Arkansas and just doing that to them. I think that if we played any team in the country the way we played Arkansas, we win 10 times out of 10. But the problem with this team is, and again, it's a difference from last year's, is you had a Walt last year who could shoot you out of a hole. You're down by 12, give Walt 2 minutes and he's going to get you. You're going to have the lead in a minute. And this year we just didn't have that. Yeah, exactly. Texas Tech, perfect example. Whereas this year, I think that they want to be 3-point shooters. I think they want to believe that they are what Walt was last year, and they're just not. And so they start just chucking up the three, trying to dig out of that hole. And it's like you're digging a deeper hole than if you just stay in your lane. And that's, again, what happened with Iowa. I think that, yeah, we somewhat shot ourselves out of it while at the same time shot ourselves in the foot. I will still stand by it. That was a punch. I will stand by it. And my wife pointed out the perfect example that if you watch the replay, it was a punch, because watch every Iowa player that you can see their faces. Every one of them are like, oh crap, like he's gone.
You saw both coaches. I mean, you saw his coach freak out, McCollum freaked out, and then you saw Todd Golden, run across the court to break that up because he thought Chinulu was going to rip that guy's head off.
Yeah. And it's just like, it is what it is. You can't.
And of course, that's the guy that hits the freaking game winner.
Of course. And it's easy to, you can't.
And last night
base
too.
Off that. What's that?
And last night, that guy hit the game winner again.
Exactly. And that's, it's tough. I was in a catch-22 last night. I was like, I want Iowa to get knocked out. But at the same time, like, but if they keep going, it looks not as bad on us. But yeah, like we've said, hats off to Iowa. They did everything they needed to do. I'm not going to live and die by the punch. I like to kind of poke at it a little bit, but it just sucks. But I feel like people think that the whole time that Walt was there, that Florida was just this dominant team. And it's like, we look at his first year there.
We had some terrible games in the Natty run too.
Right, exactly. And so we're getting some players back. You see Boogie's coming back. You see that Urban's coming back. Isaiah Brown is back. And you hear the chatter about Todd Golden in North Carolina. I'm like, you really think these players are signing up to come back that fast if Todd Golden's heading to Chapel Hill? I don't think so.
We were going to address that on the show, and that's my biggest take is there's no way Boogie's like, yeah, I'm coming back, because if you remember that story, right, that they said famously, like he was going to the draft and he was not in the portal. He did not want to talk to anybody. Todd, I guess, reached out to him, texted him, said, hey, I'm in New York, just come meet me, have lunch, whatever. And he's like, no, I'm going to the draft. He's like, just have lunch with me. And then an hour, 2 hours later, he goes, I'm coming to Florida. Like, I think Todd's locked up. The blue blood thing in the NIL era now, it's not dead. Like, obviously, there's still a hell of a lot of cachet with being the head coach at UNC or Kansas, but it's not the same thing that it used to be.
Yeah. I think the stupid thing about that too, and I obviously don't want to, go out there and say it's 100% that Todd Golden's not leaving, because I don't think there's 100% anything in college sports ever. But I think the stupid thing about that is when you win a national championship last year, like you're not going to be like, oh, let me just leave. Like that's not happening again. This year without them playing one of their worst games and having that really bad game, they were one of the best teams to have a shot at winning the Natty. It's not like Todd would have to go to North Carolina to win another championship. I think
Yeah.
Florida's done really well in showing that like you can win a Natty here. He did it. So I think that it's kind of goofy to be like, oh, he's gonna leave because North Carolina was good a while ago, and they'll pay him a lot of money. Florida will pay him a lot of money too.
Yeah. I stand by the fact that, I mean, and it's been shown in the past, it's not like Todd Golden's the only coach to ever come to Florida and win. That's why we call it, we're an everything school. He is a great coach. I mean, the adjustments that he can make at halftime is next to none. It's just, he is insane. I do think that we might have to worry a little bit about the NBA. I think if that comes calling, maybe we have to worry.
That's the only spot I think he ever leaves Florida for, is if somebody big comes, right?
Yeah. Or I think if like maybe a Kentucky or a North Carolina, if they just come and just drop an absolute bag, and then their NIL package that they offer, I think that's the one, like, I guess, concern.
NIL.
Yeah, is if North Carolina is like, because they're a basketball school, and if they're like, oh, you're going to get paid this much a year, and then you're also getting this much in NIL, where it's like you can back to back natties, but it's like, outside of a little bit of stupid play calls, and this year, I mean, you're on the way to another one, like to back to back. So that's my only concern. Like you said, Dylan, it's nothing is guaranteed here. Nothing in college football, not players, not coaches. So I don't think, though, that he is a coach that's on his way out. I think he's going to stay put, and I think we're willing to match up to a certain amount of offers. And, I'm not as upset, I guess, as others about how the tournament ended, because I'm like, these guys are coming back, and I'm hoping Thomas comes back too. I'm just, wishful thinking, but
I think we've got a better shot to get. I think there's a better shot that we get all three back versus losing all three. Not saying we're going to get all three back, but I think if it's 10% that all three leave, it's 20% that all three come back. But in my mind, even when we had the Fab Five thing going on with football in December, I said I thought we were going to bring 4 or 5 guys back. We ended up bringing all 5. I'll put this on the record. I think 2 out of 3 come back.
Yeah. And you said before we went live, like, unless you are a lottery pick, I mean, you're making a bunch of money to be here, a bunch of money to be at Florida. I want to see who we bring in, like, to replace Xavier Lee. But I definitely think that this is a team who, Boogie had to get back his footing back too after being injured all season. So I would love to see all of them make a return. Why not? Like, let's make another run. Let's go into the portal, grab 1 or 2 more guys, and maybe Isaiah Brown just hits that next level and becomes that guy next season.
He looked really good against Iowa. Other than missing the free throws at the end there, which everybody wants to talk about, that last play that Lee had, and I agree. Like, if you're a stone cold killer, you don't pass that ball to Hal. You either draw a foul or you go around the rim and you lay it up. But Lee played a great game, but there was a lot of issues. It wasn't just one player, right? It was getting into foul trouble. It was the missed 3 throws. It was the last play. It was Todd's call for that whatever the heck he was doing on D on that inbound. Like, there was a lot of issues there. And the fact is we should have never been in that position.
Real quick, I need someone to go back and clip Kyle saying something really nice about Xavier Lee, and please send it to me. I need it. It's like the first time I've heard it. Go ahead. My bad, Dylan.
I think the craziest thing was the Ruben Chinulu no-show. I think if you asked anyone, like, oh, who's the least likely to kind of not show up when you need them the most, I think it was Chin. And not a lot of people are talking about that. I think I wouldn't even say, like, looking back on it, our guards really cost us the game. I really feel like we had such a dominant couple, especially when Chinulu was good, man. Like, our forwards and bigs were so tough to beat, and then he's just a no-show. I think in the biggest game of the year where you don't see it coming. It felt like Iowa was able to do a lot more inside the paint than anyone had before too, which I think that was the biggest shock to me. It wasn't, Xavier Lee passing out there. I think that was obviously, the last play we're all gonna remember for probably the rest of our lives. It's like, damn,
Yeah.
like what if he did something different? But I
He
think
was
that
the
was the
best
most
player on our
shocking.
team that day. Like that's where
Yeah.
I give him his flowers. Like I was pissed, right, watching it live and all the Iowa fans. I mean, they were. I don't know if you guys ever saw it on the TV, but they were tomahawk chopping us and going, oh,
I
like
could
the
hear it.
band, the fans. I had never seen that. I was right behind or right to the side behind the basket of the bench. The bench was talking trash directly to our group the whole game. Like I've never seen that.
That is insane. I mean, again, I think that the tomahawk chopping stuff, I think it's corny. I'm like, we own that team in every sport, so it is what it is. Like, try something different, maybe Georgia's, fight song or whatever. But it sucks. Like, I think that's the thing. It stings really bad when a team is as good as they are, and then for it to end that way, it just hurts. It's just a shot in the gut. And again, I'm part of the Xavier Lee fan club. I like him. I thought that he, I thought he had a lot of good, and I think he needed to get a feel for the SEC. Thank God he didn't have to play last year's SEC. But when you're getting paid that much, and I know a lot of people are like, don't bring money into it. No, when you get that much money, you got to put that ball in the air. If the whole plan was to get the ball, then you got to get that ball to him earlier. Like, I don't know what you expect. Even if that pass gets there, what do you think he's going to do? There's no time left. So that stings, but I will be the first one to admit that I have openly said that if Florida football can be great again, I'm like, you can take basketball. It's okay. I promise. I hate to say it, but I mean it, and I stand by it, and you guys can burn me for it, but I stand by it. I will always stand by it.
I will trade all the basketball natties for a football natty.
Dude, I could not agree more. I could not. I know I'm going to catch hate for it.
This is a football podcast first, folks, okay?
100%. I know I'll catch hate for it, but I stand by it. But we've been going for a while. Dylan, we appreciate all the time that you've given us and given all the insight. Anytime you want to come on, you're always welcome here. Always welcome here to talk Florida football. We can't get enough of it. We went almost an hour 15 and 95% of it was football. So we appreciate you coming on, man, and just, giving us your time and talking about everything. Kyle, as always, you know how this goes. But we thank you guys for hanging out with us. One thing we're going to bring up real quick is pay attention to our socials and tune in next week because we are going to be doing a hat giveaway. So be on the lookout for that. There's going to be something to pick from, but there's going to be some things that you got to do on your end. And so be on the lookout for next week's show, and we're going to discuss what you have to do to get into the running for the hat. But
and we got the prof in here. We got the prof in here watching. We're going to announce it now. We will be at the spring game, and we will be at the high top 40-yard dash. I believe I'm running it. I think JB chickened out. So prof, keep running, dog, because I'm coming for your time.
Hey, we're cheering for you, prof. I got faith in you, my brother.
Listen, prof, I need to say something real quick. I put out there on X that my money was on you going sub 5. So if you haven't run the 40 yet, I need you to run it because my money's
didn't watch
still on
today's
you.
show. He's good. He got sub 6.
All right, cool. I didn't get to see today's show.
You didn't say sub 5. You just said it's less than it's sub 6. So we're
getting there.
We're cooking. Yeah, I didn't get to see today's show. I was on the way to Orlando, but I love it. My money's still on you, Cody, hands down. But yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Tune in next week, hat giveaway. We're going to give you all the details. As always, smash the like button, subscribe, share this out. It helps us a ton.
Where can they find you?
Yeah.
Find me over at DylanOlive_UF and Gators on SI. Appreciate you guys.
And check out the article. He gave a shout out. You can always give your shout outs on here. Check out the article. He has great work.
You keep that employee Cam Parker in line, okay?
Oh, I'll keep him in check. Let me know if he does anything silly on the next show. I'll get him in line.
Thank you for coming 15 minutes early too. You really showed us how you guys do it.
I'll make sure to reach out to you if he gets out of hand.
I learned from his mistakes. I'm always here early. I appreciate it.
Oh man, no, I appreciate it. It was a amazing show, and as always, you guys know how we end it. If you ain't a Gator, y'all know the rest.